Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com. Hey, have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that let you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, just like I'm doing now. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can hear it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi, I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, and welcome to another episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Today, I'm so excited. We are going to interview one of our board members, Suzanne DeCopain, who is an associate who practices coverage defense. Suzanne has been a member of the Florida Bar since 2009, and she works out of Tampa. She's admitted to the United States District Courts for the Middle, Southern, and Northern Districts of Florida. Before becoming an attorney at a law firm, she served as an assistant state attorney for the 20th Judicial Circuit for 3 years, where she gained a lot of experience with jury and bench trials, and she also has a lot of experience in landlord-tenant matters for public housing authorities. She is also a board member for InterOcean University, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission it is to provide online college education tuition free. She's very active in local voluntary bar associations, like the George Edgecomb Bar Association, which is one of our sponsors. And she typically, or lately, has been working with Learn Your Legal Rights Community Workshop, which was virtual in this last year because everything's virtual, right? So welcome to the podcast, Suzanne DeCopain. How are you?
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for having me.
Yeah, I was just telling Suzanne that's how you pronounce my name because we both have French names and come from the Haitian culture. So thanks for saying it that way. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, I wanted to do the podcast with the various board members so that everyone can hear your stories and why you're part of the board of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., which is a nonprofit organization that runs the Journey to Esquire program. So let's start from the beginning. Why did you decide to become a lawyer?
I absolutely love giving this answer because it's not common, or it may be common, but probably most people won't admit it. So I became an attorney, or I went to law school because my family pretty much said, you can either be a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. So I pretty much could easily eliminate medical school and engineering. And I just tried. I took the LSAT. And I applied for schools, and it just happened. My original plan was to become an urban planner, and I was already admitted into Florida State Urban Planning Program for their master's, and my family heard the news, and they did not know what urban planning was. So yeah. Here we are. I went to school, and here we are.
That's funny. Yeah, I had the same options. It was like doctor, lawyer, maybe a nurse. And then so me and my siblings ended up, I'm the only one who went the law route, and my siblings went the medical route, but no doctors, but nurses and CNA, and my brother was a dental hygienist. So I'm definitely familiar with that story. So okay, so you heard from Florida State, you got into their master's program, but you're like, okay, I'm going to law school. Talk to us about your law school application process and how you ultimately decided the school you would go to.
Okay, so my process was, I guess from my math background, I approached it as like a problem. Already knowing that it would be difficult to get in, I created an Excel spreadsheet to figure out my chances of getting into different schools. And I just compiled all the information from all the schools to figure out, what kind of LSAT score would I need? What kind of grades do I need? So just pulling together all the information and figuring out, what are the chances of success? And I decided, I believe I applied to about maybe 15 schools, and also had to keep in mind of all the application fees. So I gave myself a budget and I said, I'm comfortable with this and we'll just put this all out there and see what happens. I ended up getting accepted to 2 schools, to St. Thomas and Florida Coastal.
So what made you choose Florida Coastal? Because that's your alma mater, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I chose Florida Coastal mainly because of location. I visited the St. Thomas campus, and I felt like Jacksonville was probably a better choice for me.
Yeah, I visited University of Miami because I got accepted there, and I was like, oh no, this is so expensive. There's all these parties, and I'd just be too distracted.
Exactly.
And, but also the price of everything. I mean, Tallahassee is so much cheaper in Jacksonville than Southern Florida. So, living on student loans, you definitely got to take that into consideration.
Yes.
So did you end up enjoying your law school experience?
I would say law school was probably the best 3 years of my life. I mean, I did probably the most traveling during law school. I joined moot court, so we had a chance to travel and compete and go to different states and meet other students from other schools. Let's see. I traveled to Haiti for the first time in law school. And we were part of a national organization, the NB, the National Black Law Student Association, started an initiative towards bringing more awareness to Haiti. And it was a group of law students from all over the country that went to Haiti. So that was probably the best part of being in law school and being involved with other organizations. I started the Caribbean Law Student Association at Florida Coastal because there were many of us there. And just being involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I was involved in BALSA too. I was on the board of the regional BALSA, BALSA Southern Region, and I traveled a lot too, all over the Southeast, places I'd never been to before, like Tennessee,
Yeah.
Texas,
Where did you go
and
to?
New Orleans. We had a meeting out there in Nashville. So
I was there too.
Oh, were you? We probably were running in the same circles if we were in BALSA, yeah. And I was on the trial team, so I got to travel with them. So yeah, definitely things to look out for when you go to law school.
Yes.
Get plugged into the school student orgs, to the competition teams, because the experience, the networking, and the free travel, right? Once we get back to being able to travel, that's going to be a big benefit. So that's great. I think that's the best answer we've heard on this podcast. That's the best 3 years of your life. Not most people can say that. So I'm sure you were glad to or not happy to see it end. So what was it like when you started to do a job search after law school? And what did that end up looking like for you?
So because I was involved with different groups, there were a few people that provided advice as far as, these are some of the things that you need to do while you're in school. And, ultimately you're going to need to find a job and things like that. So my first semester or my first year of law school, my summer internship was with a nonprofit organization in Fort Myers, which is where I went to undergrad. And with that organization, I connected with the state attorney for that area, as he was on the board of directors. And as as I volunteered with the organization, I networked with him and had more information about the functions of the state attorney's office. And my second year summer, I was offered an opportunity to do an intern, a certified legal externship, I think they call it, or
CLI, Certified Legal Internship.
Not CLE.
Yeah, I know. I said that earlier too. I was like, a CLE? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So with my internship at the state attorney's office, I really had no intentions of doing criminal law at all when I was in law school. But because of my networking and the offer, I really couldn't pass that up. So during the internship, I fell in love with doing the trial work and going to court and arguing motions. And so I pretty much knew at that point that that's what I wanted to do. So,
Nice.
yeah, so I spent my third year focusing on school, and I applied to one other circuit for a state attorney's office, and I interviewed with them. I was able to get an interview, but I already knew that I wanted to go back to the 20th Judicial Circuit.
And tell our audience where that is, like physically located in Florida.
Sure. So the 20th Judicial Circuit covers 5 counties, and that's in the Southwest Florida region. So you have your Lee County, your Charlotte County, Hendry and Glades, and Collier, and maybe somewhere else, LaBelle maybe.
What is the major city there surrounding that county, those counties?
The 20th Judicial Circuit, I would say the major city is Fort Myers.
Okay.
And then you have a close second of Naples.
Okay, yeah, so that helps people figure out where things are. Alrighty. So you said that you weren't originally intending to practice criminal law. What was your initial intention going into law school, and what changed your mind?
My original intention going into law school was to do immigration law. And after my first year, I enrolled in the immigration clinic that Florida Coastal had. And I was in the clinic, I believe, for about 2 years. And if you're familiar with immigration cases, you know that some of them can last a very long time. So officially, like my first year in the clinic, I handled a case, and then I continued to stay in the clinic to pick up more cases. But like I said before, after my internship with the state attorney's office and being exposed to that area of law, and really the court experience was really what sold me. In immigration, it's a lot of paper. You do have client interaction, but mostly everything is just compiling documents and sending them to the court. Unless you're doing, like removal or deportation, the time that I was at Florida Coastal, I never had to go to court. So with the internship at the state attorney's office, it really excited me, and I knew that's where I wanted to start my career.
Yeah, I mean, that was my experience too when I did a CLI. Like my first week, the attorney's like, "You want to do a trial tomorrow?" I'm like, "Hold on." I mean, they just throw you in if they're able to. So it is a great experience, and it can change people's minds. And you did it for 3 years and got all the jury trial experience and bench trials, and now you're doing the civil work. Which one do you like better, civil or criminal?
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know I just threw that out to you. I always ask people that. So
yeah, I would say when I was at a firm that did public housing representation, that to me was the best combination of civil and criminal. So technically we were in civil court and we handled civil cases, but many of the cases that we handled had a criminal component. So one of the first cases that I tried in a bench trial at the first law firm that I joined after the state attorney's office was a robbery case. And I had to prove all the elements of robbery during my trial. So I guess the answer would be, if I'm able to be in civil court but still have a little bit of criminal,
That's the perfect combination.
that would be a perfect combination, yes.
Oh, okay, nice. So now we get to the part where you're going to offer wisdom to our listeners. Some of our listeners are just people who are thinking about going to law school. So what advice would you offer to new and future law students?
My advice would be, first and foremost, have a financial plan. Know exactly how you're going to pay for school. If you're able to pay for school out of pocket, or upfront, I should say, I would do it. If you're able to pay, per semester and not take out student loans, that would be ideal, because those student loans, they add up very quickly. So that would be my first piece of advice. My second piece would be to take advantage of all the opportunities that are in law school. When I first started law school, I made the mistake of thinking that I only had to focus on classes. And I believe it really hurt me, because my natural tendency is to be involved. So when I first started, I was very focused, and I said, I have to read and I have to be prepared for class and I can't do anything else. And my second semester, I just woke up and I said, I can't do that. And when I made that decision to, start getting involved and having other activities outside of school, my grades significantly improved. And I was able to network and gain experience, besides just everything that you learn in the classroom. So that would be my second piece, is to don't be afraid to, to do things that you would normally do. Of course, focus on your studies, but, law school is more than, reading 200 pages a night to prepare for class the next day. You just have to find the right balance.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And a lot of people say that, like, they stop talking to friends and like playing sports or whatever, but then when they start incorporating it, their grades went up. And so we want you to realize it's a priority, but that's not to the exclusion of everything else in your life that you love, especially if you're a very social person. Because sitting around reading all day in the library is not for everybody. So now we get to the part where we talk about diversity, right? We're Diversity Access Pipeline. Our goal is to create lawyers who lead, mentor, and inspire one student at a time. And we know, all these statistics around people of color and women entering the legal field, staying in the legal field, and leaving the legal field. So this is the part where we talk about why diversity and inclusion are important to you and why you decided to join the board of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc.
Okay, so why is diversity important? I guess from a personal perspective, being an African American, Haitian American, Black female attorney in the US, it is a part of your day-to-day career and professional life. Many times where when you go to court, that's really the first thing that they see. And many times they don't even incorporate the idea that you are a lawyer. They just see a Black female. So it's sort of hard to, not recognize that that's a factor in your professional life. And even though I have attorneys in my family, it really depends on your own personal experiences that impact how you view the law, and it might impact where you end up working. And it really can change things for you. I believe that, being part of Journey to Esquire and, providing mentorship and, guidance and help to students that are, trying to find their way, and really just share information, so that they don't know that they're alone, and that they know that, someone else has either been through the same experience or, can give some insight. Because it's not easy. It's not easy when you have your cases that you're responsible for and all of this extra stuff, sometimes unnecessary, that you have to deal with. And that's why I'm a part of this organization. And other organizations like the George Edgecomb Bar Association. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm over here shaking my head. I literally just had this conversation with two brand new students at my law school, and I shared the story. As a person of color, in particular a woman of color, I had an experience where I had to convince the courtroom security officer that I was a lawyer. He was physically blocking me from sitting at the counsel's table. And I have 11 hearings starting in 5 minutes. And you know how that is. A state court, you got to lay out all these things. You don't know which one they're going to call first. And I had a lot of pro se cases. I didn't know who was going to show up. And I got to deal with this 10 minutes before all my hearings. And like you said, it's unnecessary. Like, why he didn't just take my word for it, I don't know. Why I have to pull out my bar card and have to prove up my, existence in the space.
Yes.
And so that's why it's amazing that you're bringing that up. And I'm literally just telling this story to some other law students, because I said, I hope that, they don't have to go through that. But in case they do, we'll have some strategies to help them get through it, because I still have to do all those hearings.
Right. You still have to do your work.
Yeah, I still have to go back to the office and do more work. But you try to explain that to your colleagues, and they're like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't sound like a big deal." It's like, I deal with this every week, and it's exhausting.
Right.
Yeah, and so we've had tons of conversations with the students where they share these kinds of stories and fear of dealing with it, or having already, had their classmates say stuff to them that implies that kind of stuff. And you're so well connected. You always bring great people to our panel. So I love that. I feel like you know everyone. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure having you on the board. You've served 2 years now. And and so it's been great, and you've seen the program grow, and you've met all our great students. And so I want to thank you so much for taking out the time to chat with us here on the podcast. And
thank
so
you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So if you're interested in finding out more about Journey to Esquire, you can go to our website at journeytoesquire.com. You'll find all great information about the program, the scholarship, our merchandise store that we have now, and other great products and services. Thank you so much again, Suzanne DeCopain, board member for Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc. And we will see you next time on Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.